The premise and the idea for this game is really interesting. EXFIL is a new tactical shooter, putting 4 teams of 8 against each other to gather intel from a downed helicopter and evac with that intel. Now, before we get into this video, the game was provided to me free of charge, and all I had to do was talk about the game in some sort of video format. In our discussion, I was not told to talk about it in a positive light. It was more just give feedback and try and spread word about the game. But personally, I do have to give them a big shout out because you are taking a chance on a smaller creator like myself compared to going to someone bigger. So big props to them for doing so. But once again, I was not told I had to speak positively, negatively. It was really just what my thoughts were on the game. So let's get into it. Just from the premise, it really sets up for teamwork and communication and very squad-based gameplay. You may see the tags extraction shooter, but no, this is no Tarkov like. You are essentially just going in here to complete the objective and win the game. In a short summary, the game, you start off by picking your loadout and your gear, communicating with your teammates. Then you are deployed into a random starting zone in the map with a simple task of retrieving this data from a crashed helicopter. There is a 15-minute timer, so you have a limited time to get the data and evac, as well as this is the goal of the other 3 teams. You'll get into gunfights, you can be the hero, grab the data and extract, or the other way to win is by killing everyone else that is not in your squad. At the end of the game, you get this really cool end of game recap where it shows everyone's movement and an in-depth log of who killed who throughout the match and the timestamp, how it gives a very unique way of recapping a game. I found this to be really cool and haven't seen many other games do something like this. So from the few bits of gameplay, you can tell that it is a pretty good looking game for an early access launch and an indie at that. I am playing on a medium end PC, so a 3070 Ti, playing on ultra settings. I have come into a few drops in frames in certain areas and situations, more in condensed urban areas where there's more buildings essentially. I think I've had some drops there, but that seemed to all go away when I did downgrade the graphics down to the medium or so. So playing on low settings, you should be pretty fine playing this game. But something which did catch me off the bat was the dynamic weather. Throughout the game, you can see the sun shift and change the time of day, as well as you can go into maps like this, which is just full snowstorm and really good vibe here. It feels like you're in this snowstorm environment and that shit can hit the fan at any second. It does bring another level of intensity to the game compared to the first game in just the normal sunny afternoon. Yeah, it can really change the vibe. If you've played any other milsim or tactical shooter, the controls will be pretty easy to pick up. Everything from leaning to crouching are pretty similar to most other games that I have played. The overall feel does feel pretty basic. There's nothing here which I'll point out as being a really good positive or a negative. You've pretty much got all your fundamentals here, like free look and vaulting and such. So the gunplay feels pretty basic at the moment. Nothing amazing, but it's not bad either. But then again, it's hard for me to comment on the gunplay because right now there are only US players essentially at the moment, and me being in Australia causes me to have very bad connection. And I was able to talk to one guy in my squad a post-match, and he said my shots were delayed so much and that I should be aiming an inch or so in front of where I was actually aiming. So keep that in mind if you are not in the US looking to pick this game up. And that really does come into my next major point, player count. The game has been in early access for a week now, and as of recording and the past few days of me getting this footage, there has been 1 active server and this server is not even at full capacity, and this might be throwing a few red flags up for you right now, and it's something that I really want to take into consideration when talking about this game, because the premise of the game is the main thing which has stood out to me, and I haven't been able to experience that premise to its full capacity yet because I haven't been put into a game with 32 players. I've not had 4 teams filled with 8 players. It's normally been around 4 teams with 3 or 4 players max, and that's only for 1 or 2 sessions. So it's been a bit of a struggle for me to actually get good gameplay or recordings, as you can see. And that's one main thing I'm trying to take into consideration when talking about this. So yeah, pretty much the premise of the whole thing being 4 teams of 8, being in this tactical environment where you could be flanked by 2 teams and might get the drop, and then yeah, like I can see how much potential this has, as well as for tournament base and commentary, and or even just squatting up with a bunch of friends for a experience like this seems really good. But once again, play count is drastically low at the moment. Really do take that into consideration if you are looking to pick this game up. That player count also leads to long downtime. So my first match I entered, I was actually just sitting there for about 20 minutes or so, waiting for this game to end before I could actually get into the game. Seeing that there's only one server right now, you can't just hop off and join another server to get back into a match quickly, or if one's starting up, and that can immediately put people off, demand refunds essentially. And I wouldn't blame him for that. You just bought a game and you're just spectating other people playing the game for 20 minutes. That's not enjoyable. So the player count does have a pretty drastic effects, I think, on this game at the moment. Now, with that downtime, it figured out later on that it's because once you grab the data from the helicopter, the game timer essentially is paused because then the game's rolling, I think. So I think there needs to be some adjustments here from the devs. There is this mortar strike thing that comes into play to try and keep everyone moving around and not just sitting in the same spot. But once again, I think there has to be something here to try and increase the pace of the game. I think at the moment it would be fine if we did have more players in the game, so then you could server hop and just jump back into another game which was about to start up. But if you are going in solo here and you're just waiting for the next game to begin, it can be a very big drag. Currently the game is sitting on mostly positive on Steam, so you might be wondering why the play count is so low, and I think that comes down to the cost. The game is currently priced at $44 dues for me. That is a pretty steep price point for a smaller game like this. Especially for being early access, there is not much in the way of content all up, with a lot of attachments and weapons saying coming soon or it's on the roadmap. So I think trying to justify the price point is a bit of an issue. The game has 0 progression elements that I know of so far. I'm not too sure what exactly is laid out on the roadmap. They have just added a bunch of new maps to the game. It's really hard to justify that high price point. I think the best course of action for the devs to get more players into the game, increasing player counts, which will increase the overall game time and pretty much and everything, is by reducing the cost more towards the $20, $15 mark. I know that's a big cut, a massive cut from what they're pricing the game at the moment, but to justify the price, it's either reduce the cost now to get players in and then start spreading word of mouth, or do the model of get in early access for cheaper and will increase the price later when the game is fully released. Other games have done this in the past, and I think they really need to do that here to get players actually just playing the game. Otherwise, most people will purchase the game, see that no one is playing, and immediately refund the game. So I think reducing the price here is the best course of action, because in the end, the game does have this good feeling of the old search and destroy with mates on Xbox type of feel, where you could be the last one alive and you have the goal of completing the mission. 7 of your friends, teammates waiting on you to clutch and get the W. And once you do that, then you hear all the voice comms come back in after the game's ended saying, yeah, fuck yeah, you did it. This game has that type of vibe to it. I think it can find success if it does hit the right audience, but I doubt they'll be able to get that audience with this price point. So if you are interested in EXFIL, I do recommend putting it on your wish list and just waiting for a big price drop, or just check the player count before you make a purchase decision, seeing if the population of the game has sprung up. And once again, it is in early access, so maybe just put it on your radar for when it comes into full launch and see where the game is at then. Once again, I really do like the premise here. That's pretty much all I can say about EXFIL at the moment. I'll be sure to be keeping an eye and a watch on this game in the future. Let me know if you have played EXFIL yourself, or your thoughts and feedback from this video. Please leave that in the comment section down below. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.